and then I see this red rectangle again that appears around the image. I can press the Alt key and then click on this red rectangle and I can drag it in, and that'll essentially crop the image. Here again, I'll do it on the other side and just tighten it up a little bit around my face. Now you see a little bit of a tighter image and you can see more of the desktop behind me. Now, just like I cropped my video, I can crop any one of my sources. So even here with my desktop, let's say I only want to record a certain area of my screen, I can do that using cropping. Here I'll select the display capture, and just like I did with the video, I can click on this red border, press the Alt key, and then I can drag this in, and that'll only record this specific area of my screen. Now, of course, I'll record my whole screen, so I'll press the Alt key and then drag back out, and that'll re-add my entire screen. My scene is really starting to come together, but I do want to add a few more sources. Now, I can click on the plus icon down below to add additional sources, or I could also drag and drop items directly into OBS. Here I have a logo sitting on my desktop. This is a PNG file. I can simply click on it and then drag it over onto my scene. Here now I see my logo file appears, and it's for the Kevin Cookie Company. Now, just like with all the other items, I have this red rectangle around the item, and I can resize my logo. Now, I want to position this right above my video image. Now, I can click on my video, and I can reposition this as well. So now that's looking pretty good. I have my logo, and I have my video. I also want to include a border around my video. Right now, it seems like it's just kind of hanging there over the background. To add a border, let's go down to sources, and I'll click on the plus icon. For this, I want to add a color source. Let's click on that. I'll leave the default name and then click on OK. This opens up properties for color source. I'm going to move this over a little, and I want to use the same blue that appears in my logo. Here I can click on select color, and I want to pick a screen color. Let's click on that. Over here, I can hover over my logo, and I'll take this blue color. Next, let's click on OK. So I now have this color source. Let's click on OK there, and now I see a rectangle with that color source. I'm going to adjust the size of this, and I'll put it right over my video. Now you'll see that the video sits in back of the color source. I want the color source to be a border for my video, so I want it in back of my video source. Down here within sources, I can see all the different sources within the scene. Now the item at the top is the topmost layer. The item at the bottom is the bottommost layer. Now I want my color source to appear behind my video capture device, so I'll simply click on this item and then drag and drop it behind the video device. I could also use these up and down arrows to shift the layers of the different items. So here now you see I have this color source behind my video capture device. Of course, the border is pretty thick right now, so when I have color source selected, I can reposition this, and just like I did before, I can use the Alt key to crop the size of this color source. So here I'll do it so it's a nice border around my video, and that looks pretty good now. Now, as I'm working on my scene, I might want to make some sources visible and some sources not visible. So let's say I wanted to work on the desktop, and having my video here is somewhat distracting. I can go down here, and there's an eye icon. When I click on that, that'll hide that source, so I can hide all these topmost items. I can simply toggle that again to re-show those different items. Now let's say I'm all done positioning my video and the logo. I might want to lock those items so I don't disrupt their current position. So I've now locked those 3 items, and I can move my desktop around, and I don't have to worry about mistakenly clicking on my logo or the video because those are now locked in that position. Now that I've locked the position, this is one unit right here. So I have the logo, the video, the color source. I really view this as a group. Now I can click on the sources, and I'll press the Shift key to select these 3 items. So the logo, the video, and the border. I can now right click on this, and I can group the selected items. Let's try this. I'm going to call this group logo and video. Now I'll click on enter, and I can collapse this group so it helps clean up my list of sources, and this way I know when I select this item I can show that whole group or I can hide the whole group, so it helps organize my sources a little bit better. My new scene is all together now, and at this point I can now start streaming, I can start recording, I can start my virtual camera, so I could basically go live with this. Now let's say that maybe I have my webcam up here, but then I want to hide it because maybe I want people to focus on the full screen and not my face. Well, over here on the left hand side, I can click on the other scene, and this will shift the scene back to just my full desktop. Now let's say I'm done explaining the whole desktop, I can now click on my scene, and that'll show me again here in the bottom right hand corner. Now one of the problems is when I click on these different scenes, it's a little bit of a hard cut. What if I want to have more of a transition? Well, that brings us to this category here called scene transitions. Right now it's set to simply cut, but I have all these other transitions that I can set. Let's pick the swipe transition instead. So I could select this, I'll click on OK for that name. Here I could preview what the transition looks like. That looks good. Let's click on OK. I now have a swipe transition. So when I'm streaming, when I'm recording, I can now click on the other scene, and now you see it swipes away. If I want to go back to my webcam image now, I can click on that scene, and once again, that also swipes it away. So here I could choose from many different transitions, and I could customize the transitions to make my recording or my stream look better. Now, just like before, I don't want to have to open up OBS to shift between my scenes. Instead, here too, I can also set shortcut keys. If I go to the top left-hand corner, once again, let's click on File, click into Settings, and then go to Hotkeys. Within this list, I see my different scene names. Here's the desktop capture with webcam, and I see my scene. I can set a shortcut key to switch to this scene. For example, I'll set F2 to switch to the desktop with webcam, and then for my full desktop, I'll set that to Alt 3. Next, I'll click on Apply and then OK. Back within the main screen here, now if I want to jump between scenes, I'll press Alt F3, that jumps back to my desktop, and Alt F2, and that jumps back to my scene with the webcam. So here too, I could set shortcut keys to kick off my recording, and I could set shortcut keys to switch my scenes. Now that we've looked at how you can seamlessly switch between scenes, I want to show you some additional functionality related to sources. Down here within sources, when you select one of your sources, you'll see some buttons that appear right up here. Here you can return to your properties, and you could also jump into filters. I'm going to select my webcam image, and then let's see what filters we have. Within filters, up in the top left-hand corner, I have audio and video filters, and then down below I have some effect filters. Let's first take a look at some of the audio filters. Here you have all sorts of different audio filters that you can apply, for instance, the gain, the limiter. One of the interesting ones is you have noise suppression. So let's say that you're streaming or you're recording in a louder environment. Maybe you have a dog barking, or maybe the landscapers are outside. You can use noise suppression to cut all that out. Down below, I also have effect filters. Let's click on that to see what we could do. I could apply different LUTs. I can use a chroma key. Let's say I have a green screen in back of me and I want to remove it. I can use a chroma key for that. I could correct the color. Here I could crop my video here too, and you could even set something up to scroll. So let's say you inserted text into your scene, you can have that scroll across your screen. So there are all sorts of different filters that you can play with. It's definitely worth some time looking in here and seeing what you can do. Along with being able to apply filters to individual sources, I can also transform a source. So what does that mean? Well, here down below, I'll click on the group that I created with the logo in the video. When I right click on this, there's the option for transform. With transform, I could rotate items, I could flip items, or I could also center them on the screen. Here I'll click on center to screen, and here you see that my logo and webcam jumps to the center. I'll move it back to the corner, but here with transform, I could very quickly make changes to my different sources. We've been looking at many of the different ways you can take advantage of the power of OBS, but I also want to show you how you can make the experience your own. Now, so far we've been using the user interface as it comes out of the box. You can adjust things to meet your needs. For instance, I could click on controls and I could drag it out of the experience. Or maybe I want to put scene transitions over on the left-hand side. I can move these different items wherever I want. Now let's say you move a bunch of things and you want to reset it. Well, you could simply right-click on an item and then click on Reset UI, and that'll return it back to the original state. Along with being able to customize the user interface, you can also set up multiple profiles. Up here, there's a menu for profiles. So what is a profile? Well, let's say you go into File, Settings, and you go through and you make a whole bunch of modifications to these settings. You can set up a profile to store all of those settings. So maybe you have one profile for streaming, and then you have a different profile with a different set of settings for recording. You can then very quickly jump back and forth between those profiles. Another way that you can customize the experience is using something called scene collections. And what is a scene collection? Well, the easiest way to describe it is it's a group of scenes. So just like a scene has multiple sources under it, a scene collection can have multiple scenes under it. So it's basically one level up from scenes. Probably the easiest way is to simply show. I'll click on scene collections and I'll jump to my scene collection that I use for my YouTube channel. So here you see I have an entirely new set of scenes and then sources under those scenes. If I want to jump back to my other scene collection, I can simply click here and now you see the scenes that we created together. We've covered quite a bit of functionality today, but the last thing I want to touch on is how you can use studio mode. Over on the right hand side, there's an option called studio mode under the controls, and you could use this when you're streaming or when you're recording. Let's click into this to see what we can do. Within studio mode, you see a preview over on the left hand side, and then I see the program over on the right hand side. The easiest way to think of what program means is when you're streaming or when you're recording, this is what's being recorded or this is what's being streamed. Over on the left hand side, we see a preview. Now with the preview, I can move different items around. So I could click on my desktop, I could adjust the size. So maybe I want to modify things. Now anything I'm doing over on the left, that's not being recorded and it's not being streamed. So I can make adjustments over on the left, and let's say that, while I'm streaming, I want to change my view to look like this. I can then click on transition, and this now goes live out to my audience where I'm streaming or when I'm recording. Alright, well that was a quick look at how you can get started using OBS. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. To see more videos like this in the future, hit that subscribe button. If you want to see me cover any other topics, leave a comment down below and I'll add it to my list of videos to create. Alright, well that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed and I hope to see you next time. Bye.